Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Erin Pollard, and I'm the Project Officer of ERIC, the Digital Library of Education Research that is sponsored by the Institute of Education Sciences, the independent research arm of the U.S. Department of Education. Before I get started, I have just a couple housekeeping items. First, we needed everyone to reduce noise during our presentation. If you have a question, please enter it in the chat box on the left side of your screen. Also, we are recording the webinar, and we will make it available for viewing on the ERIC YouTube channel in a few weeks. You will be getting an email to let you know when it is online. We are also closed captioning the presentation. If you want to turn off the captioning, please click the X by the media viewer. Today, three of us will be talking to you about a handful of updates that we've made to ERIC over the past year. I'm going to begin by giving some highlights of ERIC's major accomplishments. Specifically, I'll talk to you about some new fields that we think will really increase the usability of ERIC. I am also going to talk about how we are connecting users to other research resources that they may not know exist. Then we're going to take a little tour of some soon-to-be-released ways that the What Works Clearinghouse will be linking to ERIC. Next, we will chat about some internal improvements, and Shiva Rooney from AEM will talk about efforts to restore PDFs that were previously unavailable in the collection. I will then briefly let you know about the successes with our public access policy, and Nancy Colley, who's also with AEM, will discuss our recent push to increase user communications. We will then look to updating the selection policy in 2018 and gathering your feedback on the future of ERIC. The past year has seen a steady flow of users. We have seen over 11 million user visits to the site, and we have seen a steady increase in web traffic. Our web traffic is from all over the world, with a little less than half of our users from the United States. The top nations to use ERIC are the United Kingdom, the Philippines, Australia, Canada, India, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, and South Africa. Altogether, ERIC's users downloaded more than 6 million PDFs in 2016. While ERIC is designed primarily to be a U.S. resource, we are excited to have such a global presence. In the past year, the most popular PDF downloaded in ERIC by far is Social Media and Mobile Internet Use Among Teens and Adults. It was downloaded over 18,500 times. The next most popular are Effective Classroom Management and Positive Teaching and BICS and CALP, clarifying the distinction. One thing to note is that these aren't the newest publications. While Effective Classroom Management and Positive Teaching is from 2016, Social Media and Mobile Internet Use Among Teens and Young Adults is from 2010, and BICS and CALP is from 1999. Why this is important is that because these articles are past what is often thought of as the useful life of their useful life, many ERIC users are looking for older documents that they may or may not know, that may or may not be available on an organization's website. This is one reason why we are working to bring ERIC users full text whenever possible, even if we have to wait several years after publication to make it available. We know our users will still find value in the documents a decade after publication. Speaking of what we indexed, in the past year we have indexed just over 48,000 records. 83% of the new records indexed are peer-reviewed. Of those, 12,811 allow us to display full text right away. That's over a quarter of the new records indexed. The other records do not currently allow us to display the full text, but may allow us to in the future. Approximately 5% of the new records are not peer-reviewed, but do allow us to display the full text, and 12% are not peer-reviewed and do not allow us to display the full text at this time. We are continuing to work with publishers to increase the number of sources that are peer-reviewed and to allow us to display the full text. In terms of the current collection, we index 1,100 peer-reviewed journals and 16 non-peer-reviewed journals. We also index 39 sources of gray literature that are flagged as peer-reviewed and 785 sources of gray literature that do not have a peer-reviewed flag. ERIC just started implementing the peer-review flag last year, and we're working to identify which sources of gray literature are actually peer-reviewed. I will have more to say about this in a little bit. So now that we have taken a quick snapshot of our metrics from the past year, I'm going to go through some of our major accomplishments. The first thing we want to talk about is the identifiers field. Historically, the identifiers field was a set of proper nouns on a wide variety of topics. What was in the field had the potential to be so useful to researchers, but due to historical character limits, there were creative and non-standardized truncations of words that made it near impossible to search and filter the field. What we did was we took the field and subdivided it into 3 distinct fields: laws, assessments, and locations. We then remove the truncations and standardize the terms to make identifiers a controlled vocabulary. These terms now appear as filters on the search results page. You can also code a search for them using the format in the advanced search tips. The first field, Laws, Policies, and Programs, allows users to limit results based on laws, such as the No Child Left Behind Act. So to answer the question, has No Child Left Behind increased achievement for English learners, you would search English Learner Achievement and then filter with No Child Left Behind Act 2001. Similarly, the Assessments and Surveys filter allows users to filter searches based on state, national, and international assessments. If a user wanted to do the search, do SAT scores predict college GPA, they should search college GPA and then filter on SAT parentheses college admissions test. This is why I said earlier that it is better to use the filters instead of trying to code a search. You may not realize exactly what our controlled name is, and the search won't work unless you use exactly what we use. Lastly, the location filter allows users to refine their results to cover continents, countries, states, major cities, and territories. You can use this filter to answer questions like, what studies have examined STEM education in California? By searching STEM education and then filtering on California. You could similarly use this to see what research on academic achievement has been done on students in Madison, Wisconsin. The Identifiers project was not the only set of new fields we launched in ERIC. We also launched fields that added connections to multiple parts of the IES website, including links to grant abstracts, study pages, and study review pages. We also included links to external author biosketch pages. If you look at this ERIC page, at the very bottom you can see a grant number. That number is now a clickable link that will take you to the grant abstract page that contains a full description of the grant and other publications funded by that grant. Why we are including this is to increase transparency. Users often see a single paper that was funded by the department and might have questions about the larger purpose of the grant. This provides context and a link that users may not know existed. We have also added a field for author IDs. ERIC now links to author pages on the ORCID, ScienceDB, NIH ERA Commons, and NSF Fastlane websites if this information is provided by the publisher or the author. We currently have 1,559 author links in ERIC. As you can see here, if there is an author link, the author's name is highlighted. If you click on the link, it will take you to the author ID page that has a full resume of the work done by the author. This can be helpful to find the full body of the work, including more recent work done by the author. Going forward, IES grantees are encouraged to use these IDs, so we'd expect to see more and more author links appearing in ERIC. The number of links will also grow for non-grantees. We also added links to the IES website for IES publications. Frequently, we found that users would come across a publication produced by our office, but they would not know that there were additional products related to that study, such as study summaries, videos, podcasts, and infographics. For example, if you look at this record for the What Works Clearinghouse Practice Guide on Teaching Academic Content and Literacy to English Learners in Elementary and Middle School, you can then click on the link at the bottom and it will take you to the What Works Clearinghouse website where you can get the publication in ebook format and you can view a related webinar. We hope that these links will help users find digestible ways to get content from IES products. In the previous slide, we saw an example of a practice guide from the What Works Clearinghouse. For those of you unfamiliar with the Clearinghouse, they are a sister program of ERIC. We are in the same division and I work on both programs. So WWC reviews causal studies to see if their methods are rigorous enough to support the claims that the study makes. This helps schools and districts know if the evidence suggests that a policy, program, or curriculum works. Last fall, the What Works Clearinghouse redesigned their website with the goal of increasing transparency and making their data easier to find. The WWC launched a new website last September that I strongly encourage you to check out. And you can find it at whatworks.ed.gov. On the home page, you can find reviews of the evidence for programs that work by topic area, and then filter on location, demographics, grade level, and several other factors. This is a great way to find out which programs, policies, or practices have evidence that they are effective, and evidence that they are effective with students like yours. One product that the WWC produces are practice guides. The WWC looks at the evidence on a specific topic, such as foundational reading skills for kindergarten through 3rd grade. A panel of experts then reviews the evidence and combines it with their professional judgment to come up with a handful of specific recommendations that teachers should follow to increase student learning. The guide contains specific step-by-step instructions and examples of how to implement the recommendations. There are call-out boxes with samples, teacher-student dialogues, and sample activities. The guide is supposed to give educators everything they need to do to implement the guide. However, we've heard that some teachers had questions about how best to implement the recommendations in the guide. So we worked with the Regional Educational Laboratory, or REL program, to develop a professional learning communities facilitators guide. The REL program is also in the same division as ERIC and the WWC. They work with states and districts to produce research and technical assistance that meets a specific need in the region. In this example, Rail Southeast was responding to a need in their region to find out how best to implement the recommendations of this practice guide. They produced the Facilitators Guide for a group of teachers to conduct several professional development sessions where educators would go through specific activities and apply the strategies outlined in the practice guide. There's a workbook with an agenda that has educators read specific pages of the practice guide and then go through specific activities. There are also several videos that show teachers implementing each strategy in the practice guide, and educators will watch this as part of their professional development sessions to show them specifically how to implement the strategies. We think that these resources are so valuable to ERIC users that we wanted to make sure that they could easily find the link of where to get them. While we're on the topic of the WWC, there's 2 things I want to show you. The first is that there is a study rating right there in the ERIC page. This is a key piece of information for ESSA and is a searchable field in ERIC. The second field is new. We added a field that is a link to the WWC study page. One enhancement that the WWC made when they relaunched the website in September was creating a study page that we are now linking to in ERIC records. If you click on the link, you will go to a study page that has review details, including a link back to ERIC. The study page has a great deal of information that is very helpful to ERIC users, especially novice users. First, you can see a citation, as I mentioned, with a link back to ERIC. Then there's information if this is a randomized controlled trial or quasi-experimental design, the number of students in the sample, what grades they are in, and what grades they are in. You will then get information about the review, and you will see those 2 blue boxes if the study meets WWC standards with or without reservations, and if there is at least one statistically significant positive finding. These definitions are important for ESSA, so we tried to make this information easy to find. In the Findings tab, you will see information about the findings by outcome. Here you will see an improvement index and whether or not the finding is statistically significant after the WWC has controlled statistical methods. And the Sample Characteristics tab has information about the sample in the study. It has information like the percentage of the sample that is English learners or eligible for free and reduced price lunch, and demographic information like gender, race, and ethnic breakdowns. It also has information about where the study was conducted. The Study Details tab has summaries of the research setting, sample, what the intervention group received, what the comparison group received, and what type of support for implementing the intervention was received. Combined, this page has a wealth of information for novice users who may or may not have the statistical expertise to be able to digest a randomized control trial. We hope this link can be helpful to users. While it won't replace the need to read the entire study, it can aid a novice user in making sure they understand the study's findings. The WWC is also linking to ERIC as an effort to better connect resources. As we saw on the other slides, all WWC citations now include an ERIC link in the citation if there is one. This helps drive users of the WWC to ERIC where they can find the full text of the article and the metadata. We are also using the ERIC abstracts as a field in their search. This helps give users a more accurate search result because abstracts contain semantic keywords. Using ERIC abstracts instead of having the WWC create keywords is a great way to increase efficiency and save resources. This is one way that searchers can use the metadata that we make freely available. If you know of other ways that people are using ERIC data, please let us know. We are really excited about all the possibilities. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about some internal improvements that you may not know about. These changes will ultimately deliver a better product to users. While they're not as flashy as new fields, they are critical to the infrastructure of ERIC. The first thing we are doing is we're adding the peer review flag to gray literature that is peer-reviewed. Publishers can download an application for the flag through our FAQ page and verify that they have a peer review process that meets our requirements. ERIC uses the same standard for peer-reviewed journals as for non-journals, but our process of verifying the information differs. For peer-reviewed gray literature publications, we have the publishers fill out an application to verify their process. Once we get the applications, we then add the flags to the appropriate records. We also allow new non-journal sources to indicate that they are peer-reviewed during the selection process. So far, we have 39 applications and should have about 100 new records a year flagged as peer-reviewed in ERIC. We are getting applications on an ongoing basis, so this number will likely rise in future years. The next thing I'm really excited about is that we are bringing our internal processing software, Elvis, into the IES Data Center. For those of you who want to see the software up close, we did a whole webinar on the software and how we index records. I encourage you to check it out, the webinar recording. You can find it on our multimedia page. But the question I'm sure you are having is, why should you care? ERIC is operated under contract, as are most programs in the federal government. That means every 5 years we have to put the contract out for proposals, and a new group of staff could begin working on ERIC. In the past, if there was a new contractor, they would have to build a new software processing system, which would take time and cost taxpayer dollars. This would mean that there could be a backlog of resources that would not be indexed during the transition and a noticeable delays as we work out kinks in the system. The first reason for bringing the system in-house is that we're able to own it as a government instead of having to pay a new contractor to develop software at the start of each contract. This saves your money and allows us to have a smoother transition that will not be noticeable to the public. There will also be a less visible gap, and it will ensure that records will have the same quality and consistency that users have come to expect from ERIC. Eventually, it will allow us to have more frequent updates to the website and to allow for better integration across the IES family of websites. It will also ensure that the data are more secure and that ERIC is less susceptible to attacks. So the next thing I want to talk about is an API. This is one of our most frequent requests. What this allows is for users to get just the fields that they need. This will allow users to get specific pieces of data instead of having to download all of our metadata. It should also allow us to get specific metrics that publishers want. These metrics will give publishers information they need about the number of users that can access their resources, and this may allow us to get permission to display their full text. We currently have the API built and are piloting it, but we're not yet ready to release all the documentation or publicize it. We expect to fully launch this in the fall of 2018, so more on this next year. Now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Sheba for an update on our efforts to restore unreadable PDFs to the ERIC collection.
Thanks, Erin. We've also started to restore the PDFs that we had to remove this summer of 2012. As some of you remember, we had to remove all of our full-text documents 5 years ago over concerns about personally identifiable information. We scanned and released documents that did not have sensitive information. But while doing so, we found that many of the documents were of poor quality and were not visible to the human eye. And they did not have a readable text layer that is required by federal legislation. Therefore, we were unable to release many of these historic documents. What we did this year is start the process to redigitize these documents, and we have released 381 restored documents to the site. The first thing we did was rescan the microfiche to get a crisper copy. When the PDFs were originally digitized in 2007 to 2009, the quality of the scanned images was not as crisp as the copies found in the microfiche found in libraries across the country. What we did is rescan the microfiche to make the images visible to the human eye. We then rescan the documents using optical character recognition software to make a readable text layer. Now I'll turn the presentation back over to Ellen.
As you can see above, this is an extremely complex and expensive process. We are working to digitize as much of our historic content as possible, but we're trying to be smart about our approach and prioritize our resources to restore as many PDFs as possible while still meeting other priorities like indexing new records and creating communications materials. So now I wanted to provide a quick update on the IES Public Access Policy that requires our grantees to submit their final peer-reviewed manuscripts to ERIC. The policy has been in effect since 2011 and has been fully implemented in the past few years. As you can see in this graphic, any individual or organization who receives a grant or contract from IES is required to submit any work funded by that award to ERIC. ERIC has already been indexing much of this work. All work produced by IES, such as the NAEP report, the Condition of Education, Regional Educational Laboratory reports, and What Works Clearinghouse products, have always been indexed in ERIC. What is new is that we are now able to index final peer-reviewed manuscript versions of the journal articles that our grantees publish. Additionally, some publishers allow us to publish the full version of grant-funded work as well. To date, we have 4,197 publications in ERIC that have been funded by IES and published since 2011. Of those, 294 are grantee submissions or final peer-reviewed manuscripts of journal articles. 242 currently have free full text available, while 52 are still in the one-year embargo period before we can release the full text. We typically expect the proportion of the collection to grow in the future for two reasons. First, grantees typically publish in the last year of their contract or after the award period is over. This means that the first group of grantees subject to the policy is just starting to publish. Second, there's been a concerted effort to make sure grantees comply with this policy across the federal government, which should increase the number of publications in ERIC. Now, Nancy will tell you about some of our recent efforts to improve ERIC communications.
Thanks, Erin. So if you've tuned into ERIC past presentations, you may have heard Erin say that ERIC is committed to continuous improvement. Well, I just wanted to let you know that in addition to improving the technical side of ERIC, we're also continuously working on improving communications for our more than 11 million users. As you can see in this recent infographic on who uses ERIC, ERIC is searched by a wide range of people. These users run the gamut from novice searchers who've never heard of ERIC through experts with deep ERIC knowledge. While novice users have been our main priority over the past few years, lately, with all of the enhancements that have been made in ERIC, we've been increasing our support products for all of our user groups. We've released more videos, held more webinars, and created more infographics this year than we ever have before. Many of these new products address the recent changes that Erin just discussed. Others respond to the most frequently asked questions we see coming into our help desk. Developing products to support academic audiences as well as other searchers is a key priority for us. We've created a variety of videos that are in the public domain and free for your use. If you are a librarian, we hope you'll consider including these videos in your LibGuides. Here's one of several videos we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about. It's called Tips and Best Practices for Writing ERIC Abstracts. This video can help students and researchers understand what an abstract is and the importance of having an abstract that clearly summarizes their paper or report. While the video focuses on how to write an abstract appropriate for ERIC, we feel that the principles can be applied to abstract writing in general. I'd like to mention another video we developed with students in mind. The video is titled, How ERIC Can Help You Write a Research Paper. Many of you may have already seen it, but if you haven't, you may want to take a look at it. It covers how to narrow a topic for your research paper, how to use ERIC search filters, and how to take advantage of the ERIC thesaurus to target specific resources for your paper. Over the past 6 months, we've also developed a whole series of videos to help users make the most of ERIC's recent improvements. This video, for example, goes into detail on how to use the updated identifiers. It shows how identifiers have changed and the most effective ways to use them in searching. This is another video to help researchers and others easily find information that is outside of ERIC. As Erin described, you can now easily link from some ERIC records to a wealth of information on the What Works Clearinghouse website, and this video can show you how to do that. You can find all of our videos, infographics, and recorded webinars on ERIC's multimedia page at eric.ed.gov. The products are listed with the latest releases showing at the top. And as of today, you can find 12 videos there, 6 infographics, and 12 recorded webinars. We'll have even more products in the works, or we have even more products in the works that we'll release before the end of July, including a video and infographic about the ERIC thesaurus. The video is titled, How to Find Descriptors for Your ERIC Search, and the infographic describes how ERIC develops thesaurus terms. So speaking of webinars, we provide recordings of all of our webinars, including this one, which will be available later in July. The webinar recordings are hosted on YouTube and listed on the multimedia page. Webinars supplement our video library, and they're intended to keep you updated and informed. As Aaron mentioned earlier, we gave a webinar in April that took a look behind the scenes at how records get into ERIC. Specifically, the webinar recording describes how ERIC selects new sources of education research, establishes agreements with publishers, acquires content, and creates new records. If you're interested in learning more about the complexity of the work we do in ERIC, this is a very good resource. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Erin, who's going to talk about the future of ERIC.
Great, thank you. So now we're going to look forward to the next 6 months or so. The first thing we are going to do is we're going to update the selection policy. We currently do this every other year. So while we completely updated it in 2013, we only made minor tweaks in 2015. We view the 2017 update to be also more minor in nature. We are looking to provide changes that will improve transparency about our policies and practices. Our initial plan is to post a draft selection policy in early fall and then have a town hall meeting where we will discuss our proposed changes and get your feedback and hear about any new proposed changes that you recommend. If you have specific ideas or things you would like to be addressed, please email us. Your feedback is really helpful. We will also be continuing our communications efforts. One thing that we've observed is that many researchers have not used ERIC since graduate school and are not as familiar with our new fields and some new functionality. To help address this problem, we are going to be having a webinar for researchers at September 13th at 2 p.m. We are specifically focusing this for IES grantees and contractors, but we encourage you to attend and ask your faculty and graduate students to attend if possible. We will also be creating more videos, infographics, and webinars. We will announce those through our newsflash and be posting them on our multimedia page. So now we're going to turn to a discussion about the future of ERIC. As I mentioned earlier, ERIC operates under contract, and as we think about the new contract, which is expected to be awarded in 2018, we want to think about what would be most valuable to users. How should we prioritize our resources? By that, I mean, would you rather us create more user tools or digitize more microfiche? What are the most valuable things for you? What enhancements can we make that would be the most valuable? So if you put in your questions in the help box, or in the chat box, we would love to hear your suggestions and create a dialogue about them. And then after we go through any suggestions, what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to any feedback, questions, or concerns that are outside suggestions for the future of ERIC. So while we're waiting, why don't we just answer some of the questions that have come in already? So this question was, our academic library is starting a project to weed ERIC microfiche for documents that are online. I found a keep list from 2014, which ERIC FAQ says will be updated periodically. There isn't anything newer. Is this the newest version? And I'm going to turn that over to Nancy.
Okay, yeah. So that actually is the newest version that we have available right now. That version of the keep list actually includes all of the PDFs that were removed for readability issues. So you don't have to worry about those documents not being included in that. There have actually been very few changes made to the older backfile documents since the time that that list was put up. There have been a handful. So we have not updated that list recently.
We have the 381.
Yeah. We will be updating it probably in the next month or so that will contain the 381 PDFs that we just redigitized. And then the next time we release new PDFs, which will probably not be in the next year or so, we will update that list as well. So do we have any suggestions about the future of ERIC? If we don't, you can also email them to us directly. And we would love to take any other questions that you have about what we presented. Okay, so this is a question that we have that we would like to see the capability of sorting by the most recent publication. So right now, the way that the ERIC search works is that the newer records filter to the top, but it isn't necessarily the most recent, but all the 2017s will show up before the 1999, so we don't have that capability right now. So I will pass that along to the developers to see their thoughts on this. One thing, if you do want to see the most recent stuff, is you could, on the left-hand navigation, you can click to see just stuff published in 2017 or published in the past 2 years. Other questions or suggestions? We'll give it another minute or two. Okay, so the next question we have is that they would like to have the ability to filter by full text availability, and we have that. So on the ERIC homepage, on any search box, you can just check full text available, and only the results that have full text available will pop up. Next question is, where can we find the ERIC infographics? All of those are available on the multimedia page. And you can find the multimedia page in the footer of every ERIC page. It's just right there, and you can click on multimedia, and it will pop it up, and at the bottom is the multimedia page. All right. Is there a way to connect ERIC to our library's link resolver or XProxy? Okay, so this is one of those, the short answer to your question is no, but I feel like I need to explain why, because I understand why you want it and why it's weird that we don't have it. What is going on is that the government, to try to find a way to do it, we need to make sure that we aren't giving preference to one commercial search engine over another, or commercial provider over another. So we are working on ways of how best to do it without showing preference. And so we're just stumbling over some government issues right now, but it is something that we know is a huge request of users, and we're trying to find a way to implement it. All right, so we're going to give it one more minute for any other questions. And if you think of questions after this is over, our contact information is on the screen. So we'll just give it another minute. Okay, thank you all so much for participating today. It was great to hear from you, and we look forward to your suggestions. Thank you.